Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hi, this is Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families, and I am here with my hubby of 33 years.
That's impossible.
Merrill Hutchinson.
I'm only 32.
Happy anniversary, honey.
Happy anniversary, hun. Yeah, man, we had a good little celebration. I mean, It was pretty low-keyed, but during COVID, just the fact that we were able to leave the house was fun.
Exactly. And I just have to brag on you for a second.
Oh.
Gotta love a man that would suggest and eat at one of his wife's favorite restaurants on his anniversary. That's a good man right there.
Yeah. Well, the only reason why that kind of gets a little bit of applause is because it's not my favorite at all.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah.
P.F. Chang's is, I love Chinese. You're not a huge Chinese fan, but for you to suggest it, and then I was literally so excited.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I hit the lottery on that deal.
So thanks, babe, for an amazing 33 years.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been good, and it continues to be a process of growing. I was sharing with some guys the other day. I said, the one thing that I don't want to ever be coming across as being fraudulent, and meaning that when we say something we don't quite follow it. We struggle with a whole lot of stuff we talk about, don't we?
Oh yeah,
and our marriage is always a work in progress, and I think that's what we really want to emphasize to all of our listeners out there, that this is not like a one-step, easy, quick fix. No. This is a constant, because life throws those kind of constant changes at us, which kind of is a little bit of today's idea of that we're going to, the changes that we're dealing with today. So, lots of different things going on here. You and I want to be authentic. We screw up a lot, and even when we're talking the parenting thing, we have a lot of good suggestions and experiences with parenting, but we still continue to get tested all the time, even in our own home. And some things we can flat out tell you don't work in our home, and other things do work better. Yeah. So it's just part of going through the growth process here.
It's kind of like taking spaghetti. You know how my mom used to test spaghetti as throwing it on the fridge and see if it stuck. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of throwing things out there and seeing if they stick. And, hun, it's always changing, right? Which is a great segue into today's show. Because what we're doing is we're tackling one of those topics that so many are talking about right now. And that is this new normal we're facing in our community, in our schools, in our nation right now. And I don't know when you're listening to this show, but as we record our show in Indiana, wow, we are moving into a mandatory mask-wearing stage in the state. So
we're kind of behind some of our neighboring states. So Indiana's just held back a little bit. But, hon, I'm actually looking forward to the show, because I think the message, at least that you and I see from this, is created through our faith, through our upbringing, a lot of different things that came into at least allowing us to have this conversation. And hopefully, as we've said before, we don't know how any of this actually works out. In hindsight's 2020, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, people are going to look back and go, why did they do this, or why did they do that? But for right now, we just have to drive. Yeah. And so we're going to have some good conversation with this.
Yeah, and so, we want to speak into that topic. It's affecting the whole family and our kiddos as they prepare to go back to school. And so many parents, hon, are torn. What is this new normal going to look like for our family, and about school and work and sports? And so we're going to tackle that really heavy burden that I think, hon, a lot of people are feeling like they're carrying alone. So let's stay tuned, and I think there's something here for you, especially those young mom and dads out there who are wrestling with some very tough decisions.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's pay some bills. I first want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. They have built a reputation in business on caring, listening, and protecting their customers. Mansfield Insurance Agency began in 1981 by Jim Mansfield and has been dedicated to serving the individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. So if you have an insurance need, call Mansfield's at 800-230-3927.
Yeah, Mansfield Insurance Agency has been a huge community partner, not just with Rock Solid Families, but so many others. in our community, as well as Maxwell Construction. And it was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. And since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become one of the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state. So whether it's a school, a hospital, restaurant, apartment center, Maxwell Construction is able to meet your needs. So call them today at 812-537-2200.
All right, yeah. So let's also talk about some different announcements and different things that we're doing here at Rock Solid Families. We are continuing to keep our doors open, even with our new mandate of wearing masks. We are going to basically follow all the rules that we need to follow to get this done. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is everybody's going to go out at their own risk, and we want to try to help minimize the risk. And if somebody doesn't feel comfortable actually coming in, we want you to know, don't stop asking for help. We are available through Zoom conferencing, even just radio telephone conversations in some instances. So please do not hesitate. We are still doing our fitness classes. By the nature of the beast, our physical, our fitness classes are naturally separating.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own finishing board that we do in our class, and they just happen to be 6 feet wide, and so they happen to keep everybody apart. So we're going to keep on rolling here and just respect those who come in. So please give us a call if you need help. You can get us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 7625.
Yeah.
And our website is rocksolidfamilies.org, so you can contact us or ask questions through that.
You know, hon, our title today is Finding Joy in the New Normal, and we have found joy in the new normal of social distancing, because really it has opened up a whole new world to us of Zoom that we really had not done a whole lot of. And so we now have the opportunity to reach out and to help folks who don't live in the Cincinnati tri-state area, who do live around the country. And so it's given us great opportunity to connect and help. And so we're just thankful for that. And that comes from just the season that we're in. So, you know, so hon, let's get to our topic, because it's a doozy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be good. I want to start with the idea of what you consider normal in the day. Okay, so hon, when I was a child, we used to have 5 kids and mom and dad in a just 4-door sedan. And one of us would ride up in the back window.
Yeah, that was my favorite spot.
Yeah, back behind the back seat. And by the way, nobody wore seatbelts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad had a pickup truck, and we literally were always loving to go back and sit in the back of his pickup truck, go down the expressway, man. We had hairs flying. Oh, yeah. We loved it. Sometimes my dad did sometimes not let us sit on the wheel well. That was sometimes a rule that we had to sit on the ground. But like nobody thought twice that you were this awful person for letting your kid ride in the backseat of a pickup truck.
Yeah, absolutely. A bike helmet was only for geeks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, nobody had a bike helmet. Nobody. Yeah. And we rode the heck out of our bikes. We rode far more than any child that I know of today.
Yeah.
Just because that was one of our deals, you know?
Yeah.
We didn't have computers and screens to stare at all day. So we were out every day riding. And I think if somebody would have shown up among my peer group wearing a bike helmet, we'd probably still be laughing today at that poor guy.
Well, hon, and I know as an elementary school counselor, you really couldn't believe the rules and limits on kiddos, like on the playground.
Yeah.
Our days in the playground, man, we were playing swinging statues and Red Rover and dodgeball. Man, if you weren't going for the head, you were not really there to play. And that merry-go-round thing that would fly around, and you would drag people going around that thing.
And it was never in mulch. It wasn't in rubberized mulch. It was on black top.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, and again, that doesn't mean people didn't get hurt. It just means that you played with a little different precaution.
Right.
If you felt like you were going to get hurt. I think the whole point in this is that no matter what generation or era that you are being raised up in, there are going to be things that you look back on and go, huh.
Wow, things have changed.
Wow, yeah. And for some things, they change due to just the style or the fad has come and gone. For other things, there is medical or scientific research to indicate maybe that there's a better or different way. I think the point is you got to live where you are in the moment, and you can't second guess every single thing that you do. You live and you make the best decisions with what you have in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you try to be hypersensitive about every single thing that could go wrong, you really find yourself isolated and stuck.
Yeah. And so it's really hard, hon, because I know there's going to be out there people listening like, oh my gosh, this is a political conspiracy and this is a cultural shift into, evil. And it's kind of, no, we're talking about really speaking in leading into this new normal and finding joy in this season of life. And this is a difficult season, hon, for some families, especially young moms and dads. Young moms especially, man, they are overwhelmed.
But, hon, can we say this? It's a season.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a season. And I think some of these things, in church today, we had the opportunity, as our minister was talking, he compared some of this to the leprosy that was going on in the time of Jesus. And you think about, now, wow, that was a big deal because there was no cure.
Right.
And he made the statement that for 30 years, this just grew and grew and grew. And that's where the colonies, the leper colonies came from. And there was a total isolation of those folks.
Yeah.
And that's a long season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's nearly a lifetime for a lot of folks. And we are so blessed to live in the time that we do. Maybe we don't have the cure, but we have science working like a hot minute on this business.
Yeah.
And relatively soon, we are going to find this season starting to subside. So in the meantime, you kind of do what you need to do,
right,
and respect the process.
Right. And the reason why we're bringing this up today, because I know so many people, it's been 4 or 5 months, they're sick of hearing about COVID, but our kids are taking cues from us, the parent. And so if you're living in fear or you are boiling with anger, so are they. Is that what you want to start a new school year, to end your summer, to live your life? So regardless of when you are listening to the show, hon, there will always be trials or storms in your life that will change to a new normal.
Yeah.
Give me some examples, hon, of some things that, maybe we're not talking about COVID, but some other things that turn into a new normal.
Well, gosh, you could have a divorce or a death.
Oh, yeah.
Something that has permanence to it in that way. And, you woke up one day and the world was one way, and the next day it's completely different. And so these are things that do happen to us all the time. So, marriage, when all of a sudden you get married and you start calling a new home. Yeah. How about if you just move? You get transferred into a different job situation. And so these are things that they just happen, and we have to learn to deal with them.
And some of them are in your control. Like maybe you choose to move across the country, and it's a whole new way of life, maybe from East Coast to West Coast. But sometimes it's a sudden end of a career that, all of a sudden your world's flipped upside down and the job you had for 30 years, you've been let go. This is happening all over now with these layoffs and cutbacks with COVID. And so, that's your new normal. And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sit there and wallow? Or are you going to do something about it?
And I like what you said before, the idea, and we notice this in our own home, and this is nothing new, but our kids cue off of us.
Yep.
And I always used to joke about this during election time. I always knew where the parents were going to vote because the kids would be running through our elementary school saying this person for president or
Where'd
this person,
and
they just siphon it right off of the parent. And the same thing goes here. If you are a go-getter and a fighter and getting out and just doing life and not allowing this to be your roadblock, but just, hey, this is an obstacle I need to jump around. Your kids see, hey, not a whole lot's changed.
Right.
We're still doing life. If you're somebody who is grumbling, like you said, and just shutting it down, your kid is seeing that as well. Oh. And I think the important part is, that grumbling thing might work for you, but is it going to work for your kid?
No, and it's not going to work for long.
Yeah.
I think another reason why we're doing this show is we got to be aware of this looming pandemic, but that we also have to be aware of another looming pandemic that is going to follow right behind it, and that is one of mental health. And so this topic is so important to us because we are seeing in rock solid families a spike in children and teens and adults who are walking in our door, who are suffering from situational depression and anxiety. I even had one that called it that the other day. And if we don't change the narrative quickly for our families, it's only going to get exponentially worse.
Yeah, I kind of liken this to the idea of Kyle, who is my partner in Strong Dads, we were talking the other day about how hot it has been. And it's fighting a fire is always hot.
True, yeah.
But when you're fighting a fire and it's 100 degrees outside. So what COVID has done is all of our people who come in here naturally with regular problems, divorce, parenting issues, COVID has kind of just cranked up the heat on everything.
You're right.
And for that reason, if you don't recognize it, that you need to know how to cool yourself off. In other words, take breaks from this COVID stuff or put it in its proper place. You said, hon, anxiety and depression is running crazy right now.
Yeah, it's okay to have a bad day or bad week, but we're dealing with now a worldwide pandemic in its 5th month, and it's not going to go away, hon, anytime super soon. So how long are you going to let this consume you and write your story, write your narrative? Because it's unnerving, it's unhealthy, and it's downright dangerous.
Yeah.
For you and your kids.
So let's channel our conversation now a little bit more towards the start of the school year and to help moms and dads and their kids to get this thing launched off the right way. Again, we are going through it just like you are.
We got 3.
but we have actively thought about, okay, what presentation do we want to put forth to our kids in terms of not just getting them through, but kicking butt. I mean, we want this to be a great school year for them and for us. So what are we going to do?
Hon, we were recently at a gathering and we were talking to one of our old students, and she is now a mom of her own, and she has 3 little ones, triplets, who are heading to kindergarten. And I'm sure she has dreamed about and thought about this day for 5 years, and she would have never imagined that this would be how it was going to start. But, what kind of year is she going to help those kiddos have? It's a very different one for sure, but how can we make it the best year ever for her girls, for our kiddos, finding joy in that, even in this new normal?
Yeah. Well, so the first part we really want to talk about is, this is a phrase you've heard us use before, but it bears saying again because it has truth to it. Your response is your responsibility.
Yep.
In other words, all the information can be thrown out there. You can take all this information in, but how you respond to it is nobody's fault or responsibility but yours. And so that is choice.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. We always talk about that, like, when I can give choice back to a person.
Yes.
Those who don't like to take the choice on, they call themselves victims.
Yep.
Okay. But those who say, okay, this really sucks, but I'm going to make it happen.
Right.
Those are the people who are actively saying, I'm going to determine how my response is going to be here.
And we're not even like I said, not just talking about the pandemic, but death, divorce, job loss, fill in the blank. Don't give that person or that thing or that situation any more power or control over you. Take control over your life and make decisions that are best for you and your family.
Hon, I had one of my men in my Bible study the other day really just helped this group clarify on all of the bombardment of information.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is this thing. We're getting bombarded by international, national, local, all of these different news sources.
Believe?
Right. And who do you believe?
Yeah.
And since it's all colored in such a dark way in so many ways, the point being is, Go to the sources that you trust.
Yeah.
Go to the sources that are local to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And our minister, again, he even said this, I'm going to trust the people that are in my area living and with my situation. And so that we're going to try to come through this together. And I can count on their advice and their wisdom to help us through.
It's
not
too
somebody
big.
that's over in New York City.
Right. It's too big I mean, when you think of what's going on in Germany or Sweden or New York City, it's time to evaluate what you have control over and what you don't. And that seems to be changing on a daily basis. And I think that's what's so unnerving, hun, because just last week our kids thought they were not going to have to wear masks in school. Now they are told everybody's wearing masks. And so you can't travel. Oh, yes, you can. And you have to wear a face mask. Oh, no, you don't. You can eat inside. No, you can't. But through it all, we can still find joy, and we need to for our kids' sake. Yeah. They need it.
Yeah. So this is a part, again, where we are so thankful for our faith, because there are so many conflicting things. We wonder what final decision we should make. And this is where prayer comes in. This is where asking for God to settle your heart, for the Holy Spirit to settle you and to guide you and to lead you and put the wisdom in front of you. All right. And so this is we're not just talking words here.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have been praying about getting help through this time. Like, how are we working with our kids? And we actively are praying for that. And the prayer is one that provides hope and calming. All right. It takes our emotions and our panic out of it. We're recognizing we don't know how to do all this. So we're going to ask for help from our God. So this is just a huge thing. Start praying.
Yeah, don't let the fear of the unknown rob you of making precious memories with your kids. Don't let anger steal your joy. I personally don't think it's a decision, hun, we should let our first graders make. As a parent, you need to decide what you're comfortable with. And I'm talking about school here specifically, but I've actually heard parents say, honey, do you want to move to another state? It's like those kiddos are taking their cues from you. So whether it's online schooling, whether it's your kiddos going back to school, whether you're homeschooling them yourself, make a decision and then, don't second guess yourself.
Yeah. So on the heart check. So I'm going to make a request from God here in prayer to help guide and protect and lead. But help me out to understand whether I know my heart is right.
Yeah, I think before we point fingers at anybody doing anything wrong or, not doing what you think is the right way to do it, I think we need to do a heart check. And Luke 6:45 tells us a story Jesus tells about a tree and its fruit. And the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And so you can recognize a tree by its fruit.
This is scary.
I know it is, because I have caught myself, honestly, and I've been called out before.
I've caught myself, yeah.
What kind of words are coming out of my mouth? It's easy. If it's ugly stuff, it's time to do a heart transplant, right. Is it what you want your kids to hear about the teacher, about the school district, about their neighbors, about your kids' friends, what they're doing or not doing? And sometimes it's something as simple, hun, as they didn't have a mask on at church. It's
being
like,
hypercritical of somebody. And sometimes it's the idea that you think you know better.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, we're just going off of the advice and stuff that we get. And people have to make decisions on it, okay?
Right.
I do think it's important that we understand how much we allow others to dump on us that colors our heart, okay?
Yes.
And so this is a very important time. Hun, you do your class on boundaries, and the big part of boundaries is watch what you're allowing people to dump into your life. And this is that same thing. And this is one of the things we're trying to work with our kids on as they're getting ready to walk into a school of 1,000 kids plus.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of trash dumping.
Yep.
And we have to help our kids. Okay, wait. This is what our family is going to do through this, and we respect everyone else. But we want them to be strong to stand with what they are going to do and what they believe in.
So many toxic people out there, group chats, social media threads. No wonder we're feeling overwhelmed about everything. All kinds of decisions parents are making concerning this pandemic and sports and school and vacations and masks and vaccines, you name it. Stop reading all that crud. Stop feeding into that negative talk. Hun, you and I, are educators by trade. And so, man, the last thing we want to do is put our teachers and administrators and coaches in a more difficult place than they already are. This is so overwhelming for them right now. Yeah. And so the last thing I want to do is make their life more difficult. And so we want to make sure our talk is positive. Our talk is not going behind their back or around them. You know, we want to show them that we support them and we will do whatever they ask us to do. Of course, if it was immoral or something, we'd challenge that. But seriously, don't second guess all those people.
I look at a high school teacher, you know, your typical high school teacher, at least in our area where our kids go to school, is going to see 150 plus kids every day. And that means that's 150 different personalities, insecurities, risk factors, that teacher's going to have to kind of sift through and manage. And you tried doing that once, right? Yeah. On a daily basis, okay? Yeah. And so they're going to sometimes make a missed call. They're going to maybe make a mistake. They're going to, especially with the rules sort of halfway written or somewhat gray changing in the time that we are in. And so, you know, encourage your kids to keep a good positive attitude even when they're wondering, why do we have to wear this stupid mask or why do we have to do this? It's like, hey, just help the situation because as you said before, hon, this is a season and we are going to work through this. I refuse to let this season define me as a person. Yep.
And really it's going to show character. So I would say surround yourself with people of character, with positive people. Glass half full kind of people that aren't ready and quick to spew out negative stuff or nasty criticism. Hon, there's enough around in the world in our news today. We don't need to invite it into our yard. Like you said, don't let your neighbors physically, literally, or figuratively dump their garbage in your yard.
Hon, it can happen so subtly,
though. Yeah.
It can happen so subtly. And this is why we have to keep our kids on guard. We have to stay on guard. You and I have both been in situations where all of a sudden, and we call each other out. You know, you've been grumbling quite a bit about this, or what are you going to do about it? And I think that's the phrase that you finally have to throw out there and put onto your kids is, okay, so I hear you grumbling. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to stay in the grumble phase and fall into victimhood, or are you going to do something about it?
Hun, I need to share a story with you because it really made me think about this. Years ago, I experienced a new normal in my personal and professional life. And it was sudden. It was devastating. That punched me in the gut and us as a family. It began sucking the life out of me and the joy out of me. Personally, I lost my grandmother, who was a faith giant in my life. And at the same time, our church was going through some really drastic changes. And there was lots, hon, you remember this, lots of grumbling, lots of complaining, including me. Like I found myself angry and fearful of the unknown. And I personally became consumed by it.
And not to try to correct you on it or anything, because I have fallen in the same thing. But I wasn't in the soup quite like you were because of your position in the church.
Right.
And our family was exhausted by your grumbling.
You're right.
And I finally just had to call you out and say, what are you going to do? Because every day that you come home and this is all we hear, it's holding you back and it's holding us back.
You're right. We had some really tough conversations. And I remember so many sleepless nights, hon, and so many tearful prayers. And in that difficult season, hon, the Lord really gave to me some words that I have clung to ever since. And I just want to share them with you. They come from 1 Peter 1, 6 through 8. And if I back up a little bit, and I'm going to use the Message translation, it says, "What a God we have, and how fortunate we are to have him, this Father, our Master Jesus. Because Jesus was raised from the dead, we've been given a brand new life and have everything to live for, including a future in heaven. And the future starts now. God is keeping careful watch over us in the future. And the day is coming when you'll have it all, life healed and whole. And I know how great this makes you feel, even though you have to put up with every kind of aggravation in the meantime. Pure gold put in the fire comes out of it proved pure. Genuine faith put through this suffering comes out proved genuine." And so I love this part, hon. It says, when Jesus wraps this all up, it's your faith, not your gold, that God will have on display as evidence of his victory.
Yeah, that's good stuff, hon. It reminds me of something that we recently heard in a talk. especially in this media-driven, news-driven culture that we're in, because it's way too accessible at our fingertips. And while that can be great, it can also be dangerous. And the phrase was, we are drowning in knowledge, but we are starving for wisdom.
Yeah.
And what you just read was a sense of that. That's why Scripture is important, because God has already been there. He knows the human nature, and so wisdom comes from having a previous experience, and is then able to shed light back on something that is somebody's going through now. And so Scripture constantly doesn't give us knowledge; it gives us wisdom, and that's so important here. That man, take a deep breath and go seek some wisdom, not knowledge.
Yeah, the NLT version of this, again, it's 1 Peter 1, 6 through 8. It says, there is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It's being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day Jesus is revealed. And it says this in verse 8, you love him, even though you've not seen him, and though you don't see him now, you trust him, and you rejoice with a glorious, inexpressible joy. The reward for trusting him will be the salvation of your souls. I clung to those words, a glorious and inexpressible joy. I love that, and so in this difficult season that you're in, that I'm in, we're in, the new normal maybe you're experiencing, and it wasn't something you had any control over, let it draw you in to a deeper love for God and his word.
Every one of the challenges in life, and we don't want to minimize a challenge, because man, when you're in the middle of that,
it's hard.
It can be devastating, depending on who you are and what you're going through. But these are opportunities, and the opportunity here to allow that joy to come through. And then joy doesn't mean I just sit around smiling. Joy means I have an energy to live life. I have this thing called hope. And I think, as we oftentimes have seen, especially in the work that we do with couples and families, it's when they are at their bottom that they walk in, and then 2, 3, 4 months, a year later, they come through and go, wow, I don't want to go through it again, but I am so glad I went through this, and now I'm a new version, that purification of that gold.
And it's the enemy. He's trying to worm his way in. He's trying to distract and destroy and discourage. So wouldn't it be so cool to stare in the face of the enemy and say, Satan, you intended this new normal to take me out or put me under, but instead God used it to draw me in and fill me with a glorious and inexpressible joy. That's possible.
Yes, for sure. So let's go into our challenge. And the challenge is, okay, what is your mindset right now? What is your mindset if you are a parent of kiddos and the school year is getting ready to start and you're trying to figure this out? I want you to take some time over the next few days and figure out, what is my mindset? How am I looking at all of this? Am I allowing this to overwhelm me? Or am I somebody who is ready to roll up my sleeves and do whatever I need to do, even if it's wear a stupid mask, okay? But what am I doing? What is my mindset on this? And how am I going to plow through? And part of that challenge is, I want you to think for a second, what am I showing to my kids? I want you to actually have, what are my kids seeing out of this, okay? Because as we said at the beginning part of the show, they're taking their cue off of you.
Yeah. And if you're having a hard time navigating in this new normal, your new normal, whatever that is, commit today to get some help. Maybe, it's just changing who you're hanging out with or what you're listening to. But maybe you need something more than that. And that's where we would love to walk alongside you and help at Rock Solid Families. So call us. Let's talk and see what we can do to help you. So there is hope and there is help out there, And we want our kids to have the best school year, and our teachers and our admins and our coaches and our bus drivers and their nurses, all of those folks, it can be, but we have to find joy in the new normal.
All right, excellent. So get fired up, get ready to get those kiddos back. Woohoo! We didn't even have to rehearse that one.
Yeah, we're a little excited.
We want to close things out. We want to say thanks to our sponsors of Mansfield Insurance and Maxwell Construction. We thank them very much for coming alongside of us. We also just always want to extend that thank you to all of our sponsors and our donors that are out there. We don't get to do what we do, and that is to reach into the lives of families and hopefully give them a new fresh start, a new beginning. And so we are able to do that because of the people who get behind us and just contribute to this ministry. So if there's anything that we can help you with, please give us a call at 812-576-7625. Hun, you want to sign us out?
Yeah, thanks again for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.